bless you, 'cause you're doing fine. At the end of the day, don't forget about me. As days turn to weeks, and weeks turn to years, oh, I feel for my brother. And as time passes by, I see you're not satisfied. Oh, I feel for my brother. Feel for my brother. The street life used to be on, straight up hustling till the break of dawn. Taught me how to do wrong right, everything is tight. But somehow things started to change. Try to get us straight up out of the game. You couldn't see what I saw.
Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Never seem to get into
And a couple from here in the
I tried to do the right thing, living my life with the words that I sing. Now tell me, I wanted to know what happened to my best friend. As days turn to weeks, and weeks turn to years, I feel for my brother. Feel for my brother. And as time passes by, I see you're not satisfied. Oh, I feel for my brother. Feel for my brother. I miss you, man. You're my brother. I said I love you, babe. I won't forget you, no. Oh, no, no.
Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
And a couple from here in the borough is begging for help today, saying they and their children are dealing with deplorable living conditions in their NYCHA home.
Feel for my brother. You know, a lot of my brothers are dead or gone, but they've been hanging on the block a little too long. What can I say? I hope they live to see a brighter day. And the ones that are doing fine, God bless you, 'cause you're doing fine. At the end of the day, don't forget about me. As days turn to weeks, and weeks turn to years, oh, I feel for my brother.
Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
And a couple from here in the borough is begging for help today, saying they and their children are dealing with deplorable living conditions in their NYCHA home. They have leaks, mold, and they've gotten little to no help. News 12's Faith Graham taking us inside the home and has their story.
Kadeem Campbell and his family have been living in the Melrose houses for more than 7 years, but within the last 2 months, he says it's been chaos. Campbell says the wall in his children's room has flooded with water from busted pipes in his kitchen. The wall unable to be painted over because of how soggy it is. You can see in this video that Campbell shot water coming straight into his 2 daughters' bedroom. The room flooded while they were asleep inside. Both daughters have severe asthma and other health issues, unable to live in these conditions. He says they haven't been able to be in their room for 3 weeks.
The painting that sheds, across the room, it triggers her asthma. The coughing, my daughter, she deals with a nosebleed. That could trigger her nosebleed too. At some point in time when my kids need me, I just wish they was here where I could just automatically, soothe them.
Campbell said he has several tickets filed with NYCHA and they have come to paint and plaster the walls, but they either don't finish the work or they run into a new problem, delaying the fix even further. In Melrose, Faith Graham, News 12.
Now, we did reach out to NYCHA to learn when they can expect these issues to be fixed. They say there's no active leak at this time, but they will work on scheduling additional repairs tomorrow.
All right, y'all. Oops, wrong music. Where am I at? Hold on, wait. That's the inspirational song. That was Johnny's joint. That's it. Woo! All right. One NYCHA show. We're here. We in the building. Saundrea is here. Stan is here. Mike Jones is here. Saundrea Coleman is here because you can see on the screen. We all here, y'all. So right now, New York City, it's 77 degrees. The low's going to be 66 today. You're going to have some nice weather tonight. You can put the ACs on low. Big shout out to all y'all on the Cross Bronx. I see y'all. A little bit of traffic going on out there. But I'm glad you tuned in to watch the show. Make sure you guys share, and I'm here. All right, share. I can make comments now? Hey, couldn't type before. System updated, something new. Hey. All right. So today, 4 o'clock is the One Night Show. We got it going on. We're going to give you some updates, show you some news, show you some apartments, talk about some things. Big shout out to that family in the Bronx. I feel your pain. We're going to play that. Your situation's out of control. As so many of us in Nitro. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to hit the button. We break it down. 1, 2, 3, and bang. Oof, we are back. Mics are on.
He cracked the mics. Now y'all can hear us.
Yeah, now y'all know everybody's in the house.
Yes,
man. It's another good week to be back. You know what I'm saying? My week was relatively uneventful, really. Been doing the bike riding thing and doing that and stuff like that. Saw some stuff on News 12 the other day, so I decided to download that. Big shout out to Jackie Mercer to put me up on that. But that's kind of what my week has been. I just kind of pass it on because nothing really happened this week that I can remember. I went to a cardiologist. Woo.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I guess that was a big deal. He was like, yeah, you know, you're okay. You're in good shape for 54 years old. So I got to do a stress test on the 29th.
Okay.
You know, go do that. But ironically, I DJ'd a wedding, right, on Friday. And my cardiologist was actually there.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So he saw me
Keeping
dancing.
an eye on you.
He saw me dancing. He was like, I think you'll be all fine with that stress test. He said, you look good. I was like, all right, well, we'll do it anyway. Don't even sweat it. So that's kind of deal. Saundrea, what was your week like? What's going on?
Yeah, hello. Greetings, all. Thanks again for y'all tuning in. And my week was, as always, busy and blessed. Constantly still checking on neighbors, making sure they have enough PP. Teaching people and telling them about ERAP, you know, if they're behind in their rent. I'll drop a link in later for that, just in case anybody has any issues with their rent and they're behind, that they can try. To my understanding, public assistance, if people are going to public assistance, they are referring you to ERAP first. And with ERAP, if you can get the funds to pay your rent, you actually don't have to pay it back, as opposed to with public assistance, you will have to pay it back.
Wow, that's important.
That's very important. Wednesday, CB8 Manhattan, which I'm a member of, had their housing committee meeting, and it was about affordable housing on the Upper East Side, which is very scarce over there, besides the 3 public housing developments that we have in CB8s. And I urge all our viewership to go to your community board meetings. They're virtual still because of this pandemic, especially your housing, your full board meeting, or your land use committee meeting. Those meetings are important from the fact that, you know, we have issues in public housing. The community board is a government agency, and it's made up of 50 volunteers that are members, you know, including the chair. But with that said, your borough president, you know, oversees it as well. But it's a space for you to let them know what's going on, and they can actually do a resolution. They can actually work to help, you know, with public housing issues, with private housing issues, or anything like that. You know, use them. They're a great resource. And lastly, today is 414th day with UES for BLM.
Amazing.
As I shared with you all before, we transitioned after our 405th day to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we're not out there 7 days, but we are out there still 3 days a week. And on yesterday, I was out there. I had a very weird experience with a Caucasian lady that was heckling me while I was speaking.
Wow.
And I communicated back with her why I had the bullhorn on, and she said, why are you I'm not yelling. I have the bullhorn. I'm speaking to people, and you're heckling and saying these things. And she had the nerve to say she had a black husband. Okay, what does that mean?
What kind of thing
But
did she
anyway,
say?
just I won't go on into it. But it was basically, some people are not for it. For the BLM movement. And as you all know, today, April 1st, we will be discussing it, the moratorium that's taking place.
Were you saying something that prompted her to have to say that she had a black husband?
Well, we're out. We're out there and we're fighting for Black Lives Matter. So when people that are fighting for Black Lives Matter, they are fighting against abuse from police, basically.
Okay.
So and there's people that, of course, do see the injustices, but they still turn a blind eye. And evidently she was one of them.
Wow.
But and it was funny because some of the people came to my defense and it was no need, and then she ended it as she was walking away with her dog. She even said to me, do you live over here?
Wow.
Questioning me about the area on the Upper East Side. And lastly, she was like, well, what's your name, Shaniqua?
Are you serious? Wow.
So I was like, okay. Then I was like, okay, Karen, okay, Becky, and I left it at that. She went walking. So, but anyway, it was a cool exchange. I didn't use no profanity because that's not what I do.
Right.
But if someone has the floor and they're speaking and you're heckling, what do you? And sometimes we ignore it, but this woman was just really showing her privilege. So, but that's it. That's it. But yeah, like I said, we're going to discuss the moratorium.
That's madness.
That ended today. And we're going to talk about that as we zoom in on the rest of the, our dialogue today.
Okay. Just going to say hello to Renee Harrison is in the house.
Hey, thank you for tuning in.
Like a black best friend. Okay, got it. Emily Johnson, rude. She has behavior issues. Wow. Yes, she does. Good evening, Nitya. And that's Emily Johnson and Nigel Saundrea in the chat. That's what's happening. Yeah,
awesome.
Stan,
Mr. Man.
Had a busy week this week. We had a meeting in Ravenswood, with the residents there, and still have an issue with the resident council president there, who I believe is for the blueprint. So we had our meeting and brought out some great information, and doing something a little different now. Instead of Justice for All trying to do all the outreach ourselves, which is difficult to do as we're a relatively small organization, we're putting some of the responsibility onto the residents. So now we're giving them the flyers, and we're letting them hand out the flyers to their neighbors. And we want them to eventually run the meetings. It shouldn't be that I'm coming in here speaking or Kristen speaking. We want the residents to actually get the information first, learn it, and then be able to present it, which I think would be much more powerful for the residents to hear it from their neighbors, as far as the blueprint's concerned. So I went back out Friday and met with maybe 6-7 residents from Ravenswood. Deja was out there at the first meeting, and some of the other residents, and actually some of the board members from the resident council president situation came out and got some flyers. Okay. So we had about a 2-hour discussion about the blueprint, and really gave them some education. So they're going to go back to their resident council president and ask, well, why are you really against Justice for All or Stand? When really all we're doing is giving out information that y'all are not getting, from your resident council president. So I think there's a territorial thing, sometime between the resident council presidents and organizations that organize. Always. And then she brought up the fact that they don't live in NYCHA. So I had to explain to her that I was born and raised in NYCHA. Right. I was born in Lafayette Gardens. When it was first born, I spent 25 years of my life living in NYCHA. Wow. My father died in Lafayette Gardens. He spent 50 some odd years living in NYCHA. And you don't have to come from NYCHA to care about the issue. You should be happy that people that don't live in NYCHA are concerned enough about NYCHA to really get on board. They also brought up the dynamics of racism. We have Justice for All is very diverse. You have white members, you have black members. So color should not matter. If you're a white person, but you're coming to NYCHA, into Ravenswood to advocate, then that should be looked at as a beautiful thing. It shouldn't be looked at as, who are they? Are they outsiders? They care because if NYCHA goes, it affects the whole entire borough. It affects the whole entire city. So it's not something that just NYCHA residents should be concerned about. It's our fight. Right. And last but not least, we're dealing with the resident council president situation over here at Queensbridge. Once again, the largest housing development in the entire country. So they're having an election, and the election
Was that you, Saundrea?
I don't know.
Turn your head. Turn your head.
It might be me.
Turn your head.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's voter suppression. You know,
Trying to stay still.
they was gonna do the election initially online. You know, so big shout out to Congressman Callie Maloney and
Ooh,
Ernie.
give us some.
She has been going through a dialogue. The office is dialoguing back and forth with NYCHA, and now we was able to move it where the vote is going to be in person for 4 hours. You know, and they had their folks had their nomination session this past week, so the people got nominated. I understand April Simpson is running again, so there's some issues there with that.
Is that Queensbridge?
This is Queensbridge,
Okay.
you know, and so, you know, again, how can you have a whole entire election in New York City just a little while ago, and folks could vote online, they could vote early, they could do this, they could do that. But when it comes to NYCHA residents, you limit us to 4 hours to vote from 4 to 8. You know, so what happens to the residents that they have to go to work?
Yeah.
What happens to the residents that maybe just can't make it during that time? You know, so are you disenfranchising residents in the largest housing development in the country? And if you're doing that, why are you doing that? Do you want to get a resident council president in there that will be in favor of the blueprint, you know, so that they can actually promote the campaign that they're doing? So there's a lot of sneaky, shaky stuff that's going on.
They should model, I know this is your time, but they should model after the board of elections and let people do absentee ballots.
Absolutely.
Because if you are at work between 4 and 8 or trying to get home, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not an all-day thing.
Right.
So do that, or do some early votes. Do something a little different so everybody can cast their ballot, because that's messy.
Right, and a great majority of people in the development don't even know there's an election happening.
Right.
So it's just, you know, it's just another example of NYCHA's criminal activity in a way that they're treating residents, and you know, it's nonsense. But I'm also mentioning we're going to be suing Queensbridge.
Okay, give them some.
I think in August we're going to have a lawsuit. We're beginning to work on residents in Ravenswood to have a lawsuit in Ravenswood, and then also in Astoria, then also on Woodside. You know, so we got to keep fighting, folks. This is not a short battle. This fight's going to be going on for a while. You know, so it's not going to be no immediate solutions. You know, but we need to fight because they're going to come back with this blueprint, you know, in the fall or I think in December, and we got to really fight, or it will be the end. I need to repeat it. It will be the end of public housing in New York City if we do not win this fight.
That's true.
And for generations, we'll be ashamed, and we should be looked at terribly if we don't fight like it's our last fight.
For the only true affordable housing at that.
Exactly. So residents, if you're listening, please get involved with this fight. Ask your resident council president what is their position on the blueprint. You know, get the information yourself. You know, because in many cases they're not representing what the residents really want, and there's a reason why. You know, but we're passing that today. So go ahead, Mike.
Wait! You got one more thing to talk about.
Oh, well, actually, I just talk about the book.
Yes.
Oh yeah, well,
Come on. How dare you? How dare you? You didn't even do it on your other show.
Yeah, what's that about?
Hip hop, health, and politics.
Come on, Stan.
I want to announce that I'm having a book that's coming out. I published it about 10 years ago called But for the Grace of God. And we're having a second edition coming out now.
Okay.
And for those who don't know, I've had quite an interesting life. I had to overcome drug addiction.
Okay.
Had to overcome homelessness. I was a single dad. Had a very successful career in real estate, but also led to me being investigated by the FBI at one point.
Wow.
I was exonerated, you know, but just the stress of all of that really can take you out, you know. So it's only but for the grace of God that I was able to survive those situations and be able to do what I'm doing today, you know. So I'm very, very thankful. I'm thankful to be alive, you know. People trying to kill me. It was just a long, drawn out.
A good book. Might turn into a movie, screenplay, or something.
We got some executives in here. They got some movie deals out here. So we may have to make something happen.
Shoot the video, baby. Shoot the movie.
Yeah. Stan's life.
Yes,
Stan the man. The life of Stan the man.
Yes, God is great.
Yes,
God is great.
Amen. You came, All right. Well, I didn't want you to miss that,
right?
Because that's very important. And the cover's different.
Yeah, it's a different cover.
Yeah, it looks good. More updated. Yeah.
I don't
glasses on.
Yeah, I don't wear the hats no more like I used to. So I had to make it more updated.
All right.
What's happening, Mike Jones?
Money Mike.
Oh, I'm just over here picturing if I'm in that book. No. Well, like I always say, my week went by smooth.
Smooth.
That's
Mike.
smooth.
Smooth Mike.
You We gotta call you Smooth Mike.
Family time this week, aunt, uncle. We had a little time spent with each other. And,
Talking to the mic, man.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Thank you. It just sounds better.
I had a little family time this week, but because you're trying to get it together with the family. Everybody should understand that their family is important,
Right.
And that you should always try to gather this rapport with your family, no matter what. And but besides that, I got I'm not sure yet. I know on my casting network page, my acting page.
Okay.
I got this organic talent people that's, I guess, came together with my page because they sent me an email.
Okay.
So hopefully they're gonna be my agents. I ain't signed a contract yet, but hopefully, things work out smooth.
We got to see Mike
Mike.
on the big screen.
Smooth Mike. Yeah, he's been in some scenes already,
Right,
so
right,
yeah.
right.
It's time for some
Trying to get
real,
my acting mode.
Yeah.
But and besides that,
maybe Raising Canaan.
right.
Yeah, why not?
Or
50 Cent, come on, check out our brother.
I'm gonna play Stan.
You know what I mean?
Ooh, yeah, younger, when you were younger, I can see that, I can see
Yeah, I
that.
like that.
Yeah.
He's putting this thing in now.
Yes,
I gotta consider it.
yeah.
Consider me instead. Come on, we got to keep it in the
But
family.
All right.
Yeah, and with Stan, I don't understand why people always say that you don't live in NYCHA, that why you do this, why you do that. I mean, it doesn't matter if you live in
Exactly.
NYCHA or not.
Right. I mean, I think that's something that they use as a diversion.
Yeah.
To say, okay, well, you don't have to listen to him or really listen
Right.
to his information.
Right.
Because really, it's not about me. It's not about whether I live in NYCHA or not. It's whether we want the blueprint or not. So that's
Well,
not.
I think what that is it's stupidity, right? And it's the Jedi mind trick.
Call it like it is.
Yeah, it's
right?
stupidity because, you're looking at NYCHA as the development, right? When someone wants to help NYCHA or advocate for NYCHA that doesn't live in NYCHA, they're recognizing the human issue
Absolutely.
in NYCHA. They're recognizing that people are suffering, right? And if you recognize that people are suffering, you ain't got to be in NYCHA.
Exactly.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It's got to be a human being.
You just got to be a human
Yeah,
being.
morals, right.
So people that say that stuff are stupid people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Territorial, like Stan
Right,
said earlier.
right.
It's territorial.
Right, yeah, territorial. Oh, well, you don't live in NYCHA. Well, no, I don't have to live in NYCHA to
Right.
know that, you know what, you got a problem, and maybe my voice might help.
Right.
And other people's voices. The more voices you have, the more help you got.
Right.
Absolutely.
We ain't turning down nothing. We ain't leaving no voice on the table.
Need more
Absolutely.
soldiers always.
Right. Allies, whether
Yeah.
you live in NYCHA or not. This
Yeah,
is a
and that's what
human
it's made
fight.
up. That's
Right.
what it's made up of.
Yeah.
Man, we're people.
Yeah.
Speaking of people, from what I understand, people are about to be getting evicted.
Yes.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
go on,
the-
What's going on, Saundrea?
Well, it's today. The moratorium expired for evictions. So Congress, they are in meetings still up, but they have left, but there's people that are camped out at the Capitol spending the night trying to get a session, in place. I watched something Friday. I shared on my page. Maybe I'll put it on the One NYCHA page that they were talking about, that the meetings that they were just having on Friday, I don't know why I sound staticky, should have been done weeks ago, months ago, and they were actually calling out the Democrats, which when you listen to it is like, wow, you know what I'm saying? But everyone knew this was coming, and we really need, and then with the ERAP money, right? The funding for people that are behind in their, their rent, their mortgages or whatever, that funding is not being dispersed.
Right.
So that's a problem. So, things need to be revamped for people to, like with the application. I was helping a senior the other day, and they didn't have everything they needed, and they had made like 3 different calls, and by the time they got through the call, they had to hang up because they didn't have it, because they didn't have a computer. We was
Right.
doing it in the hallway
Right.
and stuff like that. But, it's just really sad because the funds are available, but it's a very small percentage that has received the funding. So what are we going to do? Because
Right.
we have a homeless crisis in this country, and this will exacerbate it. So they're trying to get it extended to the end of the year. But even with it extended to the end of the year, if you're behind and you can't come from behind, you're still going to be in the same predicament at the end of the year.
Right.
So what
And how
do we do?
And now that this is in effect, right? How much time do people have before they're actually evicted?
Well, that's a state. That's most likely a state thing. But
Well,
There's a thing called housing court. Well, you got to go to house. They got to take you into court, and you got to answer your summons, and you go back and forth to court. I mean, it's not like if they give you the eviction notice, you're out the next day. If you don't answer, if you get that notice, you better answer.
Right.
Show up to court, because then if you don't, then the sheriff can.
Because I was thinking what it was that these eviction notices have been filed during the pandemic or something, and they're already in court, and now that this happened, that today is your deadline,
right?
Like people got like 2 weeks to get out or a month to get out, or so it's still going to go through the same eviction
system
process.
But let's be clear, because something you brought up, it makes very much sense. So there have been some eviction proceedings that happen pre-pandemic, right? Like before. So those had to stay, right? Because of the moratorium. So those will probably be the first cases being picked up.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So these people either hopefully they got their rent in order, or so those will be pretty much the first cases, the cases that have already been filed. And then the new cases will be coming in. But also Just Fix did something I saw for people to help them do like the hardship, like if you have a disability and anything with COVID, those people, they're okay to August 31st, even though the moratorium expires on August 1st today.
Right.
Those people that filed that hardship with the landlord in the court, and Just Fix? Am I saying it right? Just Fix New York.
Yes.
They actually, the way they did it went to the landlord as well as the court. So they can't start a process till after the 31st. Also, what they did with Just Fix, they were actually helping people do the HP actions.
Right.
They stopped that. The court stopped that because you didn't have to pay with Just Fix to file the courts. They knocked that out.
Wait a minute now. First of all, I sit on the board at Just Fix, so and I want to give a big shout out because they've been extremely important in my organizing work, and I did see that new tool that they have on the app. But you're telling me now that they took away the HP action part of it.
The ability to pay that fee for you.
Right.
I'll show you some emails. I'll send to you. It's just crazy. It's just anything to hurt the people.
Right.
Brenda says she's organizing a national march on Washington to keep public housing public, Section 9. More information pending. Okay. So she's doing a national.
Yes. And Justice for All is involved in that. I know Kristen is working very hard with Brenda and Ramona and some of the other folks. Seeker's going to be involved. It's going to be a collection of many different organizations that are going to go. We hope to bring a bus from Queensbridge and Ravenswood and Astoria, because we got to make this a national issue. It is a national issue. It's not just here. In New York City, this is all around the country. They're really trying to end public housing, and they need to be building more of it, especially in this time where we actually facing an eviction, a moratorium, and people being put on the street. You need public housing now more than ever. You don't need less of it. You need more of it. Because what are we going to do with these folks? Are we going to have even a greater homeless crisis than we already have now? I'm starting to see people encamped on the street now, which you haven't really seen in New York, for years. I'm seeing that come back. So can we imagine if we don't find a solution to this issue, what we're going to look like a few months from now? Yeah. It's going to be frightening.
And with this variant, that's coming,
the COVID thing,
the variant, they're moving the people, the unhoused, out of the hotels back into congregate shelters, which is dangerous because there's a great percentage that's not vaccinated. So, and this is just the city trying to reopen up, the best way and to make money, but you're going to lose lives. You're going to make more people sick. And lastly, HUD Secretary Fudge, female, Fudge, I can't think of her first name. Somebody can put it in the chat. When they were talking about the numbers of the percentage of people that receive the ERAP, she had no clue. She doesn't even know. So what does this say? The Secretary of HUD doesn't really know the facts.
Well, that speaks volumes.
I think we have a twofold problem here, because I'm going to ask this question across the table and to see if you know, because NYCHA's one thing, but the evictions are affecting people that aren't in NYCHA.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Okay. So let's say I'm a landlord, and I have a building, let's say a 3-family building, and no one's been paying rent for the last year and a half right now, right? Was there a moratorium on me paying the mortgage on that building? Because remember, the landlord pays the mortgage.
Absolutely.
Right? So was there a stop on him? also?
To my knowledge, I know some folks who own homes, so they've been given something of a break up to this point. But what they really should have did was cancel the rent, and they should have canceled the mortgages.
Well, it was cancel rent, cancel mortgage. Those are, yeah.
Right, and they should have, because they are, you may, on top of having the evictions, can you imagine if we also have a foreclosure crisis?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which means now you're going to have an economic crisis like
Yeah.
in 2006,
Right.
and we're facing that at this very moment.
Right.
And that's what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
I'm like, on top of that, you're going to, my landlord, I know he's a private landlord, right? He was lucky enough that, his tenants were able to pay rent during the situation. But if we hadn't been, it'd have been a year and a half that we wasn't paying rent.
Right.
And he would have to cover the mortgage.
Right. And he couldn't evict you.
And he couldn't evict me.
Right.
Yeah,
So there is some funding for them also. They're trying to help them. But what they were trying to say also, I think it was Maxine Waters and everything, those people can actually go to the bank, get loans and help, as opposed to a tenant.
Right.
Sure.
They can't go get that. You know what I'm saying? Because they have no equity.
Right.
So that's
They would still have to pay that loan back themselves, right?
Well, yeah, but it's something. If you have to, it's some funding for everyone.
100%.
It's some funding for everyone.
Yeah.
So you just have to apply. Just like with the small businesses, there was funding, but people at black small business or minority small businesses didn't know how to get it. Didn't have help to get it. They didn't know how to file. And people were getting that money. Now, rich businesses or people that knew how to get it was getting the money and actually had to give the money back, some of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got $1 million company, or you a millionaire, and you didn't need it, but you was just taking it because it was there to take.
Right.
So,
And you was getting a doozy of a check too.
Yeah.
I know
some
people
gave
got
it back, some didn't.
Right. Yeah, some people I know they got like $150,000, $160,000.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And didn't need it.
Yeah.
Didn't need it.
And they started a whole new life.
Yeah.
Like they started a new business.
And you know what? We seen businesses close.
Absolutely.
And we seen
Businesses
places open up in that same spot.
Right.
Or you
Right.
seen businesses that were, I know on 14th Street is a hardware like store that sells like household goods. They closed. It was a really nice size. They have a little small store now, right beside it, a small space.
Right.
Just to
Right.
keep the business.
Right.
But everything is like really marked like up. It's
Right.
marked up.
Right.
But they lost, they couldn't afford it. So
Right. These
and how are we
scary
opening
times.
up in this with this variant, with this pandemic still raging? You know what I'm saying? You should extend the moratorium. But here's the thing: what they didn't do, they should have gave a stimulus check every month. I think if they did something every month, people wouldn't have been so behind. I know they're giving money to families, with kids, little kids, to help get out of poverty. But some people, you helping them get out of poverty, but they still can't pay their rent.
Right.
And here's the next thing you're gonna have. Okay, so now this month ended the moratorium, right?
It's today.
Next month, unemployment.
Right.
Yeah.
Unemployment ends next month. Next month, the benefits that were coming from the government that ends in September.
Right.
So now you got evictions, and people ain't got no money no more.
I can't wait to see how October look. Halloween. I can't wait to see how October look.
No, it's
Right.
gonna be,
Like what are we looking at now?
We're looking at a national crisis.
Yeah, we're already in one, right?
And it's going to just get worse. We're going
Right.
down a deep hole. If we don't really reverse course, it's going to be tragic out here. It already is tragic, but it will just get worse.
Yeah, because there's got to be prep time, and I know everybody knew that the September was coming and so on and so forth. But also, there needs to be prep time for people to get back on their feet, for them to find jobs. The job situation kind of depends on what industry you go into.
Right.
Some industries, there's a lot of jobs, like restaurant industry. Because you got to remember, two things happen with this pandemic situation, right? 500,000 people died, straight up, which means that's basically 500,000 jobs that are open. That's basically 500,000 apartments or places people, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a big void in terms of a lot of industry because the airline industry doesn't have enough pilots to fly. Right? They're canceling flights because there's not enough pilots to fly the planes anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whether a lot of pilots died or retired or whatever happened.
And people wasn't flying.
And people wasn't flying.
Couldn't fly.
So that's become a big problem. So it kind of depends on what your industry is. But there are jobs that are out there. But, people also have to get up and go, you know what, I got to get back to work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I need to go out and go to work. That needs to happen.
Yeah.
That $400 check every week is a very nice check to get. But at the end of the day, the party's kind of over. But I think that the party shouldn't be over until the end of the year. I think it should be a December thing. and it should be like really like, yo, y'all listen. After this, things are back to normal. You know,
can't go on forever. You know, this is how
Yeah.
we're going to make this transition from where we are now to when the unemployment stops and all these things. And how are we going to do that?
Yeah, but what about the people that did go to work and their hours were cut?
Right.
They kept a job, but their hours are cut. When your hours are cut, you still got the same bills. Your bills are not cut.
And they got partial unemployment.
Exactly.
Right, because that was the thing.
Depends.
Yeah, they were able to get like the $400 as long as they didn't work a certain amount of hours a week. They were able to still like.
Right. Or they got people like I have Lanier. She's like a European traveling company agency. She's like a CEO of that company, and Europe's still closed. She can't even open up her company back up right now because Europe's still America's still like Europeans can't come into America basically. Right.
Right.
She can't even do nothing with her company.
So there goes. So that's a dead industry.
Yeah.
For her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and you have this story over and over again because that's what you got. You got industries that are going to open up and it's good, but travel industry, big problem.
Yeah.
Big problem because they're talking about a couple of things are going on with this thing. One, they're talking about going door to door to knock on door to door to see if you are vaccinated or to persuade you to become vaccinated. Just to apply a little pressure. They're not making you do it, but they're starting to do this door to door thing where they're just checking to see if you are and then giving you reasons why you should be. You have every right that when they come onto your property to go, I'm good, and close the door. You don't have to answer any questions.
Right.
Huh?
Is that similar to the contact tracing?
It's similar to the contract tracing. It's your property, no trespassing, close the door. You know what I'm saying? So they're starting to do that. I'm not anti-vaccine or pro-vaccine, you know what I'm saying, in what I'm saying here on the show. You know, it's personal. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to beware of this that's going on. I got this apartment in the Bronx that I wanted to play.
Let's see that.
You want to see that?
Yeah,
really
you set it up. Let's go.
Yeah, it's this thing on News 12 that I got. I'm going to play a little music under it just so it'll throw the algorithm off. But here it is. It's pretty wild. Okay.
A couple from here in the borough is begging for help today, saying they and their children are dealing with deplorable living conditions in their NYCHA home. They have leaks, mold, and they've gotten little to no help. News 12's Faith Graham taking us inside the home and has their story.
Kickin Campbell and his family have been living in the Melrose houses for more than 7 years, but within the last 2 months, he says it's been chaos. Campbell says the wall in his children's room has flooded with water from busted pipes in his kitchen. The wall unable to be painted over because of how soggy it is. You can see in this video that Campbell shot water coming straight into his 2 daughters' bedroom. The room flooded while they were asleep inside. Both daughters have severe asthma and other health issues, unable to live in these conditions. He says they haven't been able to be in their room for 3 weeks.
The painting that sheds, across the room, it triggers her asthma. The coughing, my daughter, she deals with a nosebleed. That could trigger her nosebleed too. At some point in time when my kids need me, I just wish they was here where I could just automatically, soothe them.
Campbell said he has several tickets filed with NYCHA and they have come to paint and plaster the walls, but they either don't finish the work or they run into a new problem, delaying the fix even further. In Melrose, Faith Graham, News 12.
Now, we did reach out to NYCHA to learn when they can expect these issues to be fixed. They say there's no active leak at this time, but they will work on scheduling additional repairs.
That's NYCHA.
And there you go.
Wow.
There you go. And that's happening in the Bronx.
Yeah. And that's not
everywhere.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say that's not isolated, sadly.
Everywhere.
And there's no active leak, like come on now.
No, you know what it is? They didn't find it.
Oh,
they didn't find it.
They didn't find the active leak.
Yeah.
They ain't want to.
And what I want to say is that, again, growing up in public housing, when my family moved in public housing, it was a very, very beautiful place, very well kept. There was inspections on a regular basis. They maintained everything. There was every 3 years you had a paint job.
Yep.
All this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And now, over decades and decades of disinvestment, you get the situation that you're having now. And I really want folks to really think about this. This is done on purpose. It was done intentionally to make these apartments so unlivable, so the HUD, they won't pass a HUD inspection. hence they've come forth with RAD and the Blueprint and all these other schemes and scams, you know.
Yeah.
So think about that. They're letting people die on purpose. This is purposely done for decades.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you.
And we should be outraged by that. It should be a national outrage, whether you live in NYCHA or not. It should be upsetting that anyone in New York City lives like that.
Yeah. I remember when I moved from one building to another in 2015, and there was no rack in the bathroom for the clothes. I had to take the one from out of my apartment. They had no shit. They don't give you no shades no more. Like everything they used to do, all they do is strip, wax, paint, clean it up. But that's it. Like it was so much you had, you would get. And then it was like some problems, like we did a walkthrough in a new apartment, and I'm like, okay, well, look at this door. You better document this. Like, certain things that I had to show and expose. But they basically will move you out of one place into another, or move a new tenant in with the bare minimal. Like, where's the shades?
Right.
Like some people move into an apartment and that's all they got. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing.
Right.
No furniture, no nothing. Some people just move in with a mattress. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But not even no shades. Like really?
Right.
Horrible.
And then people moving into apartments that are messed up themselves.
Yeah.
So as soon as I have residents that I work with, that has happened to, where they got moved from one apartment into another apartment, and their new apartment is already messed up as soon as they got there. So they're not even doing the work to make sure that the apartments are habitable before they move people in. So just think about that. That's just criminal. People should be going to jail.
Of course.
There should be people doing jail time for what's happening.
Yeah.
So this march you guys are doing on Washington, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah,
what that's about and how you guys are organizing?
Yeah, we there's a petition circulating around. Ramona's a big part of this. Justice for All, I know various other organizations, Seeker. So we having folks sign a petition first and foremost to say that we don't want public housing. We need the residents to sign, although you don't got to be a resident to sign. And the reason why the petitions are so important is that Greg Russ is saying that he's engaging with residents and that he spoke to X amount of residents. He probably spoke to less than 2,000 people, and all of this time that he's been doing this so-called engagement. So you want to be able to show that we have 10,000, 15,000 signatures of people that don't want the blueprint. So we can have documented evidence that there's a large majority that don't want it. And then we're going to go to Washington and say, you know what, this is a national issue. We can't let it be isolated to just New York or any others. I mean, it's just everywhere. And we got to come together as a national movement, which is a struggle. It's very difficult to get organizations to work together. There's always, we all fully aligned in issues and such, but we're going to have to figure out a way to get around all of that to make this a national fight, to bring it to the forefront and pressure, HUD to do the right thing, which is give the full funding, so that there will be no need to have these talks about privatization whatsoever, so we got to make it national. We have to make it a big national issue.
Yeah, and these repairs that they would do if they repair our homes, they also create jobs for people. Like some of our youth and young people have the OSHA training and different trainings and skill set. You can hire NYCHA residents to actually fix up the home if they're qualified, or train them, an apprentice program or something, because the work needs to be done.
Right.
We have a resident in the Isaac houses. We have a resident, what they call it, maintenance man, right? He lives there. So he's the one that can find leaks.
Right.
If he doesn't come look for the leaks, none of the other maintenance crew can find it. Okay. He's the one that can find the leaks.
Right.
This makes no sense.
Like he's the plumber guy.
Right, right. But he's not. But he can find the leaks. He knows how to find. He knows what he's doing.
One guy.
He's that. Yeah.
Because a lot of these guys that come out don't know. They don't know what they're doing. They're not qualified to do what they're being asked to do. They often leave, and it's the leaks behind the wall and the wetness and the moistness. It's so rampant. And I want folks to know the blueprint will not solve all of that.
No.
They're not fixing elevators. They're not going and fixing pipes. They're giving you a cosmetic makeover at best. With refurbished,
temporary.
Appliances. And the mold and all the issues that were there,
still there.
It's going to still be there, and you're not going to have NYCHA to hold accountable.
Right.
You got a private manager, and that's a totally different deal.
Slumlord.
Right. It's totally different.
I mean, with mold, right? I mean, mold isn't something you can paint over.
Right.
It's like you have to destroy the wall.
Right.
basically, and rebuild the wall from the
Not
bottom.
NYCHA.
They're not going to spend that kind of money doing that kind of work.
Then the mold continues to grow. Right. Mold, it grows. And in the chat room, you have Arilda Garina. She said, make sure they deduct the shades from your rent. NYCHA, that's what she's talking about there. Emily Johnson says, NYCHA says they don't have the clothesline when you move in. It's because someone hung one up themselves. Brenda Temple says, Sika collected 20,000 signatures against privatization in 2018.
Wow.
And that list is growing.
Yeah.
Renee Harrison says, I agree. It is a national issue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hung themselves?
Absolutely.
What
Big
happened?
shout out to Dr.
Someone
Falani.
hung
and Sika.
themselves?
Hung themselves where?
Well, you got.
That's what it said. NYCHA says they don't have clothesline when you move is because
No.
someone hung themselves with
hung the clothesline up.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone hung the clothesline up.
Yeah. No, but they actually
the
used to
clothes
give
on
you,
themselves.
they used to give you that,
Oh,
that
right.
rack.
They must have voted wrong then, I guess.
This is how you read it, right? How you received it. Yeah. They used to be in the apartment when you move in, not no more. So I had to take mines.
Yes, it's a shame. It really is.
Okay.
But we need to really make this national fire, as I stated earlier, and really get everybody involved, and all folks who don't live in NYCHA. This is your fight too. We need to repeal the Fair Cloth Act, which
That's
is what
right.
they put in place to end public housing and stop it. We need
No
to
more
get,
building.
Right, we
No
need
more
to,
building, new
exactly.
public housing.
We need to get that change, and I think Chuck Schumer on our last show, when actually he was here, he said that they were working on that.
Repealing
so hopefully,
it,
Chuck, do you have it come through? We're still waiting to hear about the $80 billion, in this infrastructure bill. I think we may be in jeopardy. I think that Joe Biden and his wanting to be bipartisan, we're worried that he may take some of that stuff out. And if it gets watered down, and there's no money for NYCHA, then all hell has to break loose. Because we can't afford to wait. We can't afford 10 more years of this. We will be dying, in our apartments, and so we're hoping he has to deliver. We put you in there, Biden. You have to deliver. Don't let us out. Don't cut us out to appease these Republicans.
Another thing I want to work on, and maybe we could work on it together, Justice for All and One NYCHA, how they're doing contact tracing for COVID. They need to survey the NYCHA residents, their health. Because remember when we had the doctor on last week, people are stricken with asthma, lead poisoning, other certain upper respiratory illnesses, cancers, and stuff like that. You're not getting these things from being at work, or some of these illnesses are coming from where you live at.
Absolutely.
Because you spend the most time at your home. So it's things I want to work on. We'll talk a little later and raise this awareness so they can start doing a study to see, because you have to have the data.
Right.
You have to have the statistics before you can really do something. Because if NYCHA is actually literally killing us slowly, the residents need to know.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I remember one thing he said, Roger Flores,
Roger Flores.
A thoracic surgeon.
Yes.
He said they already know. Governor Cuomo, they did a study, he said, and I'm quoting him, that the 83% of the apartments are uninhabitable.
Right.
And they know it. And they've known it for a while, and so
But we got to find out if you got sick in these apartments.
Absolutely.
And it's probably our seniors.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
No, it's criminal. I mean, criminal. I can't imagine or believe in the so-called richest country in the world, and we live in one of the richest cities in the entire world. That this is really happening. It's beyond comprehension.
Oh wait, Mike, you did read that right. Hold on. She said NYCHA says they don't have clotheslines when you move in is because someone hung themselves with the line.
Okay.
Mike actually did read that right. I had to go and read.
All right, Mike.
Is that what it
Money,
was?
Mike. He said reading is fundamental. I didn't see it, but okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
I mean, is the clothesline that strong? I mean,
it is, because you could actually do bring it down, bring it up. Yeah. And it's a nice strong line. Yeah.
Listen, they're gonna take a shower curtain poles too.
Make a great jump rope. Make a great jump rope.
You can hang yourself with a shower curtain pole. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah, that's another thing.
So now you want to, okay, let me get this straight because I love this. This is just so asinine, really, right? Okay, so you want to keep me from killing myself, right?
Right.
But you want to kill me with mold and asthma.
Right. Right.
Is that accurate?
Right. That's exactly
I want
what it
to
is.
slowly kill you.
Kill you,
Right.
yes.
They
This
don't
is
want
a
you to
quick
speed
kill.
it up.
Right,
They don't want
right.
you to speed
We
it
don't
up.
want you to speed it up and end your suffering, right?
Right.
Which, you know, I mean, if you're going to commit suicide, listen, you're going to do it. That's kind of, you've made
Yeah.
a decision,
Right.
right?
Right.
You've made a
Whatever,
decision.
right. We don't want to talk, right.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I ain't going to tell you how to do it.
Right.
You know,
There's
just
failed suicides also.
right.
Ooh.
Of course, yes. People that don't do it right, and
Yeah.
you know, God bless
They
you because
messed
God
up.
didn't want to take you.
But they
Right.
messed up too.
Right.
But yeah, then you know, if you're gonna go, you got to commit. I'm
Right.
joking. All right. So anyway, but what I'm saying is,
I
so they
can't.
took the clothesline out, so people don't hang themselves. What are you gonna nail the windows shut so
Or
people
for
don't jump out? Like,
how
come
many
on, stop.
developments, how many apartments
Right.
in one person?
Right.
like-
Right. Come on now.
Right.
Come on now.
And that had to have been a sturdy pole, to
Right.
be honest. Cause
Right.
Damn
those-
sturdy.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a skinny person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, come on.
Like when I was a kid, I used to, try to play them things. That things fell on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, they not that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no logic behind many of the decisions that NYCHA makes. You know, it's really completely illogical, 100%. That
And
makes no
Emily
sense.
says another from genocide, another
Yeah.
form of
Yeah.
genocide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
what it is.
Absolutely. Black and brown people, call it what it is.
And the media should be ashamed. I'm gonna call them out like we call the elected
Yeah.
officials out. And we have Channel 12. Thank God they did that clip. And we have Monica who does sometime cover it. But Channel 2, 4, 5, 7. The major media does not really cover this.
Yeah.
Like they
Lisa
really,
Evers does some stuff too.
Right.
I think she's with 5.
But if this was anybody else, or any if this was not people of color, this would be a national news
Right.
story on CNN on a
this would
regular
be
basis.
paradise.
The rise
Yeah.
of Don Lemon covering
Yeah.
this. I haven't seen Don Lemon do a show on public
know what?
housing at all.
I want to thank Emily Johnson
She's from 700 Strong too.
because I was looking for a word, and that's what it is. And that narrative needs to change really because it is genocide.
Yeah.
Exactly what it is.
It is genocide. And I don't think they use that word enough.
No.
But they should.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It should be part of the language every day that
Yeah.
the
Right.
people in public housing it is a genocide that's
yeah.
going on.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? They're
Right.
killing them slowly.
Right.
With their attempt to make them uncomfortable, right? You're killing people.
Right.
It is a genocide.
No, purposely done.
That's right.
I mean, it's insidious, and it's called abstinence. That's part of the blueprint. That's actually a part of it. It's called abstinence.
does that mean?
That means a purposeful letting of an apartment fall into decay on purpose. This is not. I want to make sure people are clear about that. This is not by design.
And this is written into the
It's
blueprint.
written into the blueprint. So when we ask these resident council presidents, have you really read this? Do you really understand what it is? Why are you going out here promoting it? Half of them didn't read it. It's a very complicated.
Exactly.
It's not something you ain't gonna read it in one day and really
Right.
understand that.
Right.
You almost have to be a lawyer. To
Right.
really sit down and break it down. We sat with elected officials and they couldn't understand
Exactly.
it. So how are you gonna vote for something that you don't understand yourself? That's why
Right.
they had to pause it in March, but they're, I guess, studying it now, so they can come back and reorganize and come back in the fall or December
Right.
to kind of push it through. But it's a very complicated thing. A public
Right.
trust is not something you can easily understand. I've sat for
Or can trust.
right or trust. I sat for 2 hours in Ravenswood speaking to board members, of the resident council president, and they didn't understand it, And after a while, when we said to them, let's just simplify it, it's a loan, so if you take out a loan and you don't pay the loan back, well, then what happens?
Right.
So are we going to trust the public trust
Right.
to actually pay back the financing that they're going to borrow, all this debt that they're going to put on these buildings, when we can't trust them now or
Right.
NYCHA to find the millions of dollars that go missing every week. So
Yeah.
these are the people we're going to trust.
Right.
And it's so if they don't pay it back, it's a foreclosure.
Yeah.
Now the bank owns it, and now you're out. Just
Right.
like any other foreclosure. So people need to look at it from simple terms.
And NYCHA is very funny because even when they lease out, or they give the buildings away to RAD and stuff like that, and give it to a management corp, they retain the land. They always keep the land.
Right.
And they keeping the land because they know whoever has it is not going to keep it for the years that they signed up for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they're keeping that land, and also we have to be mindful. I know when we fought against the infill proposal in 2015, and it went for years up to 2019, and we finally, beat it. But you have to be mindful. Anytime bulldozers and all of that is coming to break ground in your development to do anything, it's dangerous.
Right.
Because if your building has any cracks, it becomes unstable. The building is most likely going to have to come down.
Right.
And that's something that they are probably hoping that can happen.
Sure.
And we was not going to let that happen.
Right.
We were ready to get in front of the bulldozers, but because they were supposed to break ground June of 2019, but
Right.
the case went mute in the court. But, just to think about it, and like I told y'all before, we had a crane fall up the block. So we know what what happens with construction.
Right.
Especially with these buildings that were built in the 60s or 50s. How stable is the foundation anyway?
Right.
And then you're going to bring all this new heavy duty equipment and drilling and,
Right.
no. So we just have to be mindful, and we have to think out of the box when they are bringing this to us, and think of yourself, your safety first.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you got to realize one thing, right? That the only thing real in real estate, and the reason why it's called real estate, is the land.
Right.
The building's not real. The house is not real.
Right.
Real estate. It's a word. Real estate. The land is what's real.
Right.
Anything can be put on the land.
Right.
The land is the canvas.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
The campus.
Yeah, it is the canvas. It is the campus, right? You can make anything.
Yeah.
As long as you own the land, you can put whatever you want on the land. If you look at New York City in the 1970s, you look at New York City now, the canvas has changed.
Right.
Right? The only thing, people think that real estate is the house.
Right.
People think that real estate is the building. No, that's not real estate.
Right.
It sits on the real estate.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? But it ain't part of the real estate.
Right.
Right.
A lot of people own the house, but they don't own the land.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They paying taxes.
They paying
You own
taxes.
the house, so you pay off
Right.
that mortgage.